To have you with us on this edition of the Urban Debate. Viewers, tonight we begin with a detailed analysis and updates on Lockdown 4.0. But I want to start off by showing you the contrast that exists within our own country. This is effectively a tale of two Indias. Both these Indias got hit by coronavirus. Both these Indias went into a lockdown. But right now, the scenes for some of us is very, very different than the rest of the Indians. And that's unfortunate reality of our country right now. On one hand, after the center issued guidelines and we moved into a phase of lockdown 4.0, the states and cities have gradually begun to open up. India is opening up. Shops are opening, more public movement seems to be allowed in many parts. Public transport is set to begin in a few places, and there is some amount of movement back towards normalcy. On the other hand, the massive humanitarian crisis for the poor of our country, laborers, for those workers who migrated from their own hometowns and states in the search of a job, and are now stranded, struggling, jobless, without any money, in desperation, trying whatever they can to go back home. And that situation just doesn't seem to ease. These are the two sides that are unfolding right now in our country. And these are the two sides that I want to focus on the urban debate here tonight. We tell you how your life and my life will change in Lockdown 4.0. What's opening up, what's not opening up, where businesses are allowed, what shops can start, how is one state dealing with this differently from the other state. But we will also tell you the plight of our migrants. We will also show you how, despite 2 months of lockdowns, the government seem unprepared for dealing this issue. How lakhs of them are still on the roads and the highways of our country. How, despite the fact that there is now buses and trains running, in some states the border areas are witnessing chaotic scenes. Ghaziabad was one of those instances, and we will go into the details of those. And with me through this special broadcast is our managing editor, Vinay Tiwari, who's joining us right now. And Vinay, before I start off with our reporters and get details, just a quick comment from you on the two Indias that we are looking at right now.
Yes, and I think, this is possibly the worst migrant crisis ever since the partition of India. Let's not hide behind words. Let's not, hide behind syllables and fineries. The fact is, Indian state has failed its migrants. And we failed them because these are the very people that have helped build our cities. The cities that we live in, the flyovers that we use, the shops that we access, the services that we enjoy sitting in cities and in our comfort, and all the infrastructure that we enjoy, including the buildings and the high-rise apartments that most of the people who watch this channel are living in, were built by these people. And we failed them, and we've miserably failed them. And if you see the images that have been coming over the last 10 days or so, it's a resounding failure of the collective administrative system that India possibly has. And I think the bigger tragedy is not only have we failed them, but we've in a very unintended manner, but in a very starkly contrasting manner, shown up the difference in the way we are treating two sets of Indians. There are a set of 15 trains that are currently running, Rajdhanis, for people who can afford it, who follow a particular process to go and travel from point A to point B. And on the other hand, you have images of thousands of people walking the streets of not just the city, but across states, thousands of kilometers to reach their home. I mean, our reporters have today gone out in the field and spoken to them, and each story that Santya and other reporters have got are heartbreaking. I mean, they're absolutely heartbreaking. There are people who are talking about having pregnant wives, they have small children, there are elderly people who say that they have returned 7 times to 8 times at the police station center to check their status, and they haven't been updated about it because there are no state facilities. The government is just not providing answer. They've just pushed the police at the front of it to manage it, and the administration is just sitting pretty watching the entire, the chaos roll out. And as I said, let's admit it, we failed them. And we failed not just 1 or 2 people, we failed crores of people, because the number of people who are currently trying to go back home or are currently walking back to their homes run into crores. And there is no question that this remains one of the biggest tragedies that we could have seen in this current coronavirus crisis, Tanvi.
Yes, absolutely, Vinay. And you know, the heartbreaking part is that so much has been said about it, so much has been talked about it, so many times the state governments and the central governments are asked about it. But unfortunately, none of that is actually translating into good enough amount of help on ground. Right from day one, in the first week itself, when we saw of the lockdown that these migrants had begun to move, everybody realized that this is going to be a big problem. Yet today, as you and I sit back and look at, what's changing in our cities and which shops will open up, which services can open up, it's unfortunate that those who were the lifeline of our cities, those who are literally carrying our cities and driving the growth engines in our cities, are struggling in such a bad manner. And that's the tale of two Indias that we need to focus on and speak about. But let me go across to our reporters who are joining us right now. And Pramod and Neha are with us from two different cities. Pramod, let's start with you. How was day one of the lockdown in Tamil Nadu, in Chennai? To what extent has life opened up?
Well, we can definitely say that life has opened up as per the instructions of the Tamil Nadu government, stating that 50% of workforce will work at a time in government or offices, and that's the reason the state of Chennai we have seen several government buses also plying. What they have done is that they have converted the workforce into batch A and batch B. Batch A will work for 2 consecutive days, and the next 2 days they will take leave, during which period it will be filled by batch B. So that's how the government workforce is also functioning, and the entire state has been diversified into 25 districts as one batch and 12 districts, which also includes Chennai as a consecutive batch, where there will be no relaxations because the numbers are still increasing. It's on rise. Even as we speak right now, we are having 11,700 cases that has been reported from the state of Tamil Nadu. And the 25 districts that has been separated now, which includes Coimbatore, Erode, Theni, Nilgiris, and various other districts surrounding that area, where the numbers either have come down or under control. They have provided more relaxations by which you do not require an e-pass to travel within the district. Vehicles are also allowed. A certain number of people can travel within a vehicle. For instance, if it's a large bus, 20 people can travel. If it's an Innova kind of vehicle, 3 people can travel. If it's a van, 7 people are allowed to travel. The Tamil Nadu government claims that social distancing must be maintained at all times. So all in all, it is in the state of Tamil Nadu, the movement of people has definitely increased after the relaxations, and more relaxations have also been announced on one end. It's being said that from tomorrow onwards, the Chief Minister has announced that barber shops can work in rural areas. Salons can work in rural areas except for municipalities, town panchayats and corporations. So these kind of relaxations are also being provided as the week goes on.
Yes, and what's interesting is, Pramod, like you said, more of these, services and shops will be allowed to open. But of course, today was just day one, and a lot of people didn't have that clarity and didn't know which way it's going to go. So as far as, Chennai is concerned, there was activity in parts, but there was still quite a bit of shops closed in many other parts. Pramod, thanks so much for joining us. In fact, since we are on the point of Chennai, I want to bring our viewers one ground report as well. Right now, we are in a state of curfew. Nobody can step out post 7 p.m. But here is a report that Shabir got for us in the daytime from the T Nagar market of Chennai, one of the otherwise in normal times the most buzzing areas and buzzing markets. But right now, it still wears the look of a deserted street. Take a look.
Though Chennai has not got any relaxations in lockdown 4.0, but these are the scenes that one can witness at T Nagar Ranganathan Street, which is otherwise buzzing with heavy activity. It's always crowded, but now it wears a deserted look because even after shops are open here, the area does not have the kind of people that used to see on normal days. Sir, आप मुझे बताइए कि ऐसा कभी हुआ है कि रंगनाथन स्ट्रीट खुला हो, दुकान खुली हो और लोग ना रहें इधर?
हमने तो 20 साल हुआ इधर आए को, हमने कभी देखा नहीं। आज तक ऐसा कभी हुआ नहीं है, फर्स्ट टाइम ऐसा हो रहा है। हमारे पास पैसा नहीं बचा है, आदमी लोगों को तनख्वाहें कहाँ से चुकावें हम? उन लोगों के फ़ोन पे फ़ोन आते हैं, पैसा दो पैसा दो, पैसा हमारे पास नहीं है।
तो आप मुझे बताइए सर कि आप इधर दुकान खोल के रखे हैं, आपका कुछ सेल्स हो रहा है या कस्टमर्स आ रहे हैं?
थोड़ा बहुत 5-10 हज़ार का सेल होता है, वो भी थोड़ा बहुत तो हेल्प मिलता है, और क्या करेंगे। हम लोग नहीं चाहते हैं कि हमारे स्टाफ को, पुअर लोगों का हम लोग तनख्वाह रोके, लेकिन हमारे पास हमारी मजबूरी हो गई है, ना तो हम रेंट चुका सकते हैं, ना हम किसी को तनख्वाह दे पा रहे हैं।
So this is unprecedented scenes here. Almost all shopkeepers have complained that they are, they don't see, people coming here for shopping because, on one hand, there are a lot of restrictions that have been laid out in different parts of the state for movement of people. So this is the last thing that, people want to do during a pandemic, to come and shop out here. But for the shopkeepers, it's troubling times for them to go ahead with their life and business.
From Tamil Nadu, let's move to Karnataka now. And Neha Hebale joins me with the latest from Karnataka. Neha, that state moved very, very quickly. There was a cabinet meeting earlier today and a series of announcements that were made. Now, how does life change for people in Karnataka and specifically Bengaluru?
Well, Tanvi, it seems like Karnataka being, the lesser affected of the, of the many states or of the many metros, if we can call it that. Bengaluru, has happened to report a fewer number of cases when in comparison. So keeping that in mind, the government of Karnataka has, of course, reaped the maximum benefits from the MHA order. And many, of course, relaxations have in fact been allowed, all again within the purview of the order. If we look at how things are going to be different for the people of the state starting tomorrow, the most important, of course, being the public transport revival that's taking place. Autos, taxis and public transport, the BMTC buses for within the city limits of Bengaluru would be permitted. Again, of course, with the restrictions in place of the number of passengers being limited to 2 in autos and taxis, and also in the BMTC buses there is a restriction on the number of people that can board these buses. Now, also apart from that, we're looking at, of course, how barbers, salons and other commercial establishments, barring, those that would attract a large number of crowds, such as gyms or eateries, are going to be open. Now, if we look at the rest of the state of Karnataka, very interestingly, inter-district and interstate travel has now been permitted. For the inter-district travel, we brought you a report earlier where we showed you how the KSRTC buses were cleaned and, they were ready to actually hit the streets. So starting tomorrow, yes, the ticket sale will also, go online is what we're given to understand. And for the interstate travel as well, the buses that are only permitted at this point in time, not trains, but only buses, would also, in fact, be operational. So, as far as Karnataka is concerned, while at this point in time the government may not be as worried about the number of cases or the situation on ground, and they have allowed these relaxations, it has to be noted that today Karnataka has reported the highest number of single-day cases, which stands at 99, almost close to 100. So, yes, of course, there will have to be a lot of regulations that the government would bring in over here. But, yes, life will definitely be a little bit more relaxed for the people of the city, and travel will, of course, be a lot less, hassle-free, if we can call it that, for the people who are stepping out. And also important to remember that all people who are above the ages of 65 and below the ages of 10 and also chronically ill patients will not be allowed out on the streets. And another important thing, like many, of course, other states have, unlike many other states, Tanvi, is that Karnataka has decided to restrict the restrictions only, to limit the restrictions only to the containment zones and not the orange, red and green zones. So this ideally means that certain pockets of the city or certain pockets of the state would be completely sealed down and minimal activity allowed there, while the rest of the state would continue to function.
Okay, in fact, you mentioned it and I wanted to play out that report as well, Neha, the fact that buses will be allowed in the state of Karnataka, and that will come as a relief to quite a few people who need to get out and don't have any other mode of transport. And of course, there are going to be rules for the fact that, and Neha sent this report from the Kempegoda bus stand in Bengaluru, where there is only going to be one entry point and everybody who enters will be thermal screened, and in each bus there will only be 30 passengers. Take a look.
Comes as a big respite for several people in the state of Karnataka. The transport services would in fact be resuming from tomorrow, not only for essential but also for non-essential travel. Well, we're here standing at Bengaluru's, of course, one of Bengaluru's biggest bus stands, the Kempe Gowda bus stand, or Majestic as it's popularly known. And what we're showing you are, in fact, the KSRTC buses that would be travelling to other districts out of Bengaluru to transport passengers starting tomorrow. It is, in fact, at a time when several people were stranded in the city, waiting to, leave the city and go back to their home districts. And this comes at a time like that. Remember that several measures have been put in place over here to be able to accommodate these travel of these buses. As you can see, these are the buses that have, in fact, just been brought from the depot to the bus stand now. Each of these buses has been marked with this board, as you can see, saying that it has been treated with sanitizer. Now, this, while maybe on the outside, on the inside as well, there are going to be several measures that are taken in these buses. A limited capacity of just about 30 passengers is what we understand will be permitted on each bus. Now, as far as the number of buses are concerned, we're given to understand that this would be need-based, basis how many people book the tickets, how many people are required to travel to other districts. Joining me now is, in fact, Mr. Inayat, who is the division controller of the KSRTC, stand at Majestic over here. Let's quickly get in a word and find out what other preparations are currently underway. Sir, it's definitely some good news coming in here for, several people of the state who are looking to travel. So, what preparations have been taken by the KSRTC? You all must have been preparing for this for quite some time.
Yeah. See, we are ready to operate the buses from tomorrow. Our all bus crew have been already informed to report, and they are already reporting for the duty. So, up till now, we have been operating for transport of migrant laborers and all that. But from tomorrow, ticket-based operations will take place. So, as per the just now, the government announcement of Karnataka, that from tomorrow we'll be operating buses within the state. That's only within the state is allowed. Okay. So, totally, as per the news briefing, it's 2,000 buses are allowed of all the 4 corporations. So the plans are being drawn out, like where to operate, how much to operate from each place. So accordingly, we'll be operating from tomorrow. Okay.
So now one challenge that, we've been seeing from the beginning is the fact that, several people arrive at the bus stand the minute there's an announcement that a bus is leaving to a particular district. So how are you going to manage this crowd control? Isn't that going to be a pain point, a challenge for the, staff over here as well?
Yeah. For us, people in transport corporation, every day is a challenge for us because every day is a new day for us. So the thing is that we have made only one entry point. Okay. So that makes our job easier because we can scan the people. We'll be doing thermal screening people, and that will help us in maintaining the social distance among the people. Okay. So that is the first point. We have all barricaded the other entrances. There are many entrances to the bus stand. So we'll be seeing that from tomorrow only end entrance is there, that people have to enter there only. Okay. And accordingly, and the people will be thermal screened. Their details will be taken. And we'll be operating the buses.
Right, so right. Thank you so much. Well, there you have it. Of course, while on one hand the authorities do seem equipped to be able to deal with the crowds that are probably going to start from tomorrow, with people going in and out of the state, and of course more importantly in and out of Bengaluru, the city. We'll really have to wait and see how this pans out and whether the government is actually able to manage this smoothly or not. In Bengaluru with video journalist Pradeep, this is Neha Hebale for Mirror Now.
That was a report that Neha got for us from Bengaluru at the bus stand, where these buses were being cleaned up and prepared so that the people of Bengaluru city can start using them. Unfortunately, those buses that were queued up there are being prepared for people who are in the city and are living in the comforts of the city, but not for those who want to go home. And there are lakhs of those people across India, even now, fighting for the next public transport, bus or train, waiting for days together without knowing when they will get on a bus. We had these detailed reports that came from Ghaziabad, where there was hundreds and thousands of them, and when we spoke to some of them, they said they'd been there for 3 days, 4 days. They come every day, but they're unable to get a bus.
Yes, and through this show today, Tanvi, I think we're going to keep reminding the viewers of the contrast. I mean, look at the contrast. Gleaming Volvo buses, sanitized signs on the front door, all ready to be rolled out for lucky inhabitants of cities. And see the pictures running the screen right now. thousands of people, absolutely no concept of a social distancing process here, as if their life doesn't matter at all. It's only the people who live in cities who have to maintain 6 feet distance because they can afford to, but not those people who are desperately trying to get their forms submitted. Can you imagine 50,000 to 75,000 people in a ground trying to get their forms submitted and then wait and pray whether their numbers will come and when it will come, with no official method of actually making that announcement to them. And not just are they standing there to fill the forms, there are language handicaps, there are technology handicaps. Not everybody is adept at filling forms online or even by hand. Some of them may not be able to read or write. And this is what is going on. I mean, just look at the visuals right now. 50, 60,000 people crammed in one ground, desperately trying to get back home, even as we are trying to figure out whether our salons are open or not, and whether our malls are going to open or not, and whether the pools or the gyms are going to open or not. And I'm telling you, never before has the political system and our governance failed as collectively as it has done in this case. And I say so because, remember, I'm very, very surprised that political parties who are very savvy about where people actually really matter in terms of even a vote bank, which is something which they actually do. These are the people who really matter because they are the people who vote in the states, and they are the people who hold the key to governments in many states. And for some reason, we've forgotten about them all through this tragedy entirely till they've hit the streets, and the situation pretty much seems to be out of control. Big contrast, and it's a contrast that shows you how we forgot half of India completely, Tanvi.
Yes, and no amount of reminders seems to be helping. And Vinay, like you said, they may be a big vote bank, but we've forgotten about them perhaps until the next election. And before that, we'll come out with a series of announcements that we then hope will help get them back on our side and get the votes. At this point of time, we have simply abandoned this entire percentage of our population, considering how big it is, and we still don't really seem to be doing enough and don't seem to be doing the right thing there. Now, let's move to the national capital, which is also a city that saw a big migrant exodus problem. But it's also a city that has, where the Chief Minister has been saying repeatedly that we are ready to open up, that we are ready with our healthcare infrastructure. Let's go ahead and restart our economic activity. Otherwise, it's very difficult to sustain. Alok, how did life change for people today? And what did the government say? What else can happen in the coming days in terms of opening up?
Well, Tanvi, situation was completely same till today. It was earlier these days, and it was during the lockdown 3.0. But from tomorrow, because the people were waiting, those businessmen were waiting, people of the Delhi were waiting that the announcement will be made from the Delhi Chief Minister about what things will be resumed. So Arvind Kejriwal just a few hours ago that he announced that certain things will be resumed, and definitely if we talk about more than 70% of Delhi will be resumed from tomorrow, because right now I'm standing at the Connaught Place, and here you can see that it's completely vacant. However, it is used to be very much completely crowded, but today, as you can see that till today, because the fourth lockdown has already announced, and Delhi government today announced the 4.0 lockdown. So from tomorrow onwards, the people will start coming, because this marketplace will definitely be opened, because one of the announcement that Delhi government has made, that markets will be resumed from tomorrow with the odd even schemes. Apart from that, apart from that, the construction activity will be started. But at the construction activity, the migrant workers who are staying outside the Delhi, they will not be allowed to come. Those who are staying in Delhi, they will only be allowed. The offices, that private offices, will be starting from tomorrow with 100% staff. So Delhi government wants, and in fact, Delhi Chief Minister also appealed the people that they have to follow the social distancing norms as well. So these are the important announcements that Delhi government made. So till today, there is is no movement of the traffic. Very less number of people will see have seen today on the road. But from tomorrow, the large number of people will be started coming because, yes, definitely the market is opening. And important aspect is that that from tomorrow, the transport facility is also now going to be resumed. The buses will be coming on the road with 20 passengers, auto rickshaws, e-rickshaws with 1 person each in these vehicles, and taxis, there will be 2 persons will be allowed. So these kinds of that the government has given that these things will be resumed from tomorrow. So it will be very interesting to see that how the things will go. But we hope that the people will definitely follow the social distancing norms, because the number of cases is definitely rising in the national capital. Back to you.
Yes, absolutely. Alok, thanks so much for bringing us that report. And what, in fact, like Alok said, it will be interesting to see how life changes for our viewers in Delhi from tomorrow, because the detailed set of guidelines actually came in the evening, and through the day when we were even talking to the shopkeepers, they kept telling us they were waiting for these detailed guidelines. So you will begin to see Delhi open up a lot more starting tomorrow. One can only hope social distancing is maintained. Let's go across to Disha, joining us from Mumbai. Now, Mumbai is actually the city with the highest number of cases, and a city which still is seeing large number of cases every day. Disha today traveled to various parts of the city. She was even in Dharavi, and in fact, she sent us these set of visuals that show you that in Dharavi, as people got to come out, there was quite a bit of crowd there on the streets as well. But Disha, as far as the guidelines are concerned, what has the Maharashtra government said, and what changes in Mumbai?
Well, for Mumbaikars, life will be pretty much the same how it was before, Tanvi, because no relaxations have been announced by the Mumbai civic body or BMC particularly. They have only issued one statement saying that lockdown 4.0 will be very much similar to lockdown 3.0, because Mumbai, as we all know, comes under a red zone. So no relaxations have been announced, be it in containment zones or non-containment zones. For instance, we are here standing at the LBS mark, which is one of the important road here in the central suburbs of Mumbai. And as you can see, the entire road, which seems to be bustling at least 2 months ago, now of course it is looking at a very silent look. And this, of course, perhaps Mumbai will have to see till 31st of May is what we understand, because no relaxations are going to be announced. As far as outside, of course, of non-containment zones, specifically if we talk about in the state of Maharashtra, only industrial activities will be allowed. But particularly if we talk about the Mumbai city, no shops and establishments will be open. Only essential services will continue to remain open, like the medical shops and the grocery stores. Of course, maintaining the social distancing norms. There is, of course, a curfew that will be imposed from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. next morning. So all of these remains really the same, as Mumbai is the city, Tanvi, which has reported over and about 20,000 positive cases. It is the worst affected city in the entire state. And keeping this in mind, of course, the BMC has not really announced any relaxations for the city.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, the civic body hasn't, but we are also waiting to see what the Chief Minister has to say. He's expected to hold a news briefing in a short while from now, and we're going to be tracking that for our viewers. So for those interested in what's going to happen in Maharashtra, let's wait and watch what Uddhav Thackeray has to say. Disha, thanks so much for that. Vinit Tiwari, our managing editor, continues to stay with us. I'm going to take a very short break. On the other side, as promised, we'll also put the spotlight on the migrants' exodus, the massive humanitarian crisis that we're looking at. And we begin with a special conversation with UP Health Minister, who's joining us right now. UP is a state that's seeing lakhs of people come back on a daily basis. Welcome back. Joining us right now for a special conversation is Mr. Jai Pratap Singh, the Health and Family Welfare Minister in Uttar Pradesh. Mr. Pratap Singh, thank you for speaking to us. Let me begin by asking you, in the last 2 months since the lockdown was announced, how much of health infrastructure has the state of UP managed to build?
Can I say something? Please,
yes.
I'd like you to correct my name. It's Jai Pratap Singh. Yeah, okay.
Yes, I introduced you as that.
We've had time to build up our
Singh.
infrastructure from... Okay, okay. Thank you. Thank you. We have built up our infrastructure from the day we got alert from the government of India in on January 26th, and from there realizing the problem which we're going to be facing in the next coming months, the Chief Minister had already constituted a committee with a plan to look into all the medical facilities which needs to be upgraded, as well as to see the effects of the lockdown or effects of the coronavirus on various communities and markets and everything. So as of now, we have, in short, I'll just tell you that much, that we have an infrastructure of almost 52,000 beds in isolation where we can have patients where we need to go there. We restructured the system to make it into L1 and L2. L1 is where our basic infrastructure, where people who come with positive cases, we have oxygen cylinders over there. L2 is where serious patients can go, where we have ventilators also. And we have a huge amount of infrastructure all over the state to take care of all these corona patients which are coming in now in little larger numbers.
Okay, Mr. Singh, in fact, UP government was the first to start building, quarantine centers for people who are going to come back from other states, was the first to start, building health infrastructure. The Chief Minister was also appreciated widely for that. But now as we look at the situation, now it seems that the government is struggling. Yesterday we had the additional Chief Secretary say 1.5 lakh people have landed up in the state in just 24 hours, and we are trying to to take them to their native places, but there aren't enough buses, there are problems in the quarantine center, food is a problem, screening is a problem. Are you suddenly witnessing a big challenge?
I would like to make one thing very clear, that when we built up our infrastructure to today's time to accommodate a large number of positive patients, we ensured that the system is going to be working right down to the village level. Now, no matter how many people come as migrants, we've already got 508 trains which have come so far as of today, which has brought in about 7.5 lakhs of people into various districts. Previous to this, we've already received about 4 to 5 lakh people coming from Delhi areas and all when we came from Anand Vihar. This entire system has been organized in such a way that the moment they come into the shelter homes, they are looked after. There's a community kitchen, there's a screening process over there, and they are looked after by giving them, once they are screened and they are told to go home on a home quarantine basis, we give them rations also for that much time. And we ensure that at the village level, they are screened by our ASHA workers and medical team regularly over a period of time. So we are very confident that whatever migrants come in, no matter how many numbers, and we are expecting almost up to 25 lakh people who are coming in, it is all coordinated at the district level, at the tehsil level, and at the village level. Screening is in process. We have our doctors in time. We have our isolation wards, we have our ventilators, we have ICUs, we have everything in place. What migrants are coming in, that is a separate thing, because they are coming in with trucks and all that. When we're already getting them by trains, we've already got 508 trains, as I told you just now. But yet, people from different states are not maintaining the same system as we have maintained. They are sending these migrants along with trucks and allowing them to get permission to go by motorcycles, by auto rickshaws, by leaving them by coming, by walking down the highways. So that is something which we had not anticipated at that level. We have worked out a system with the governments on the other side that you register all the migrants over there, send us a list, we will organize the trains, and we are getting them according to that only.
Okay, but I know you're saying that you didn't anticipate people to land up in various other ways apart from the trains and buses. But Mr. Jai Pratap Singh, if you look at what happened in Ghaziabad today at the bus stand where hundreds and thousands of them were gathered, and it was chaos. And that's not just Ghaziabad. Across many of your border areas, whether with MP in Rewa or with Rajasthan, similar scenes of chaos are taking place where buses are just standing there, not being allowed to enter Uttar Pradesh. That doesn't look like a sign of an administration which is prepared, Mr. Singh.
That administration is not ours. We had made a strictly, we had a good agreement. We had an agreement with all the state chief ministers under the guidance of the Prime Minister. Each state was supposed to register everybody. Each state was supposed to have quarantine shelters. Each state was supposed to provide them food in their community kitchens. No state has done it excepting Uttar Pradesh. And this I want to tell you very clearly that Uttar Pradesh today is even having people from Bihar, from Chhattisgarh, from Nepal who are not wanting to leave because we are getting everybody enough food to eat. We're giving them rations, we're giving them jobs in the Manrega thing. So why should people leave from here? It is what the other states have not done according, they've not followed the rules that we wanted them to do it. When they are not being able to manage their states, so they've just left everybody to come to the borders and we are not allowing them to come to the borders until they come via train. We want them to come by train through the system which we've initiated. We want the list which comes from there so that we can get them to the districts, separate them and let them go to the districts at the tehsil level, at the village level where our committees are there, where our doctors are there. Everybody is in place. So why should we take people if they are not being done properly from the other states? It is their responsibility to clear all that thing.
States, but you're blaming states, Mr. Singh, which also includes Gujarat, Madhya Pradesh, Haryana, states which have BJP governed governments. Now, if we can't get our coordination right within the same, party governed states, then what can be expected? Jai Pratap Singh, Mr. Jai Pratap Singh, can you hear me? Okay, we will have to patch that line again because I did have a few more questions for him. Quick reaction from Vinay also. Vinay, on what this minister seems to suggest is that we had a plan in place, but the other states didn't follow that plan and they were all supposed to come in a staggered, organized manner and they've suddenly just all landed up.
Yeah, okay, so maybe I'll concede his point to what happened, possibly people entering from Rewa or from Rajasthan near the Mathura border. But what explains 4 officials sitting on tables trying to take forms from 50,000 people in Ghaziabad? That is the local administration of the Uttar Pradesh government. If you have 50-60,000 people trying to submit forms, they were not coming from any other state. They were migrants of this state who were trying to go to other states like Bihar and Odisha, from where migrants also come to places like Noida and Ghaziabad. I mean, please understand, and I think it's important to point out to our viewers that Noida is a lot like Delhi. So there is a lot of migration which comes from outside Uttar Pradesh also into Noida. Now, that is clearly under the jurisdiction. It is not something that another state can be blamed for. That's something that they should have taken care of. I mean, how can you have a situation where 60-70,000 people are crammed into one field with just 4 officials sitting there or 5 officials sitting there on a table, on a platform and trying to take forms? Clearly, there is no doubt and question about it that this issue was not thrashed out and discussed between states, and even internally certain district administrations have completely failed to anticipate the problem. I mean, am I being told that in 2020 state governments do not know that there is a migrant issue in this country, that there are migrants who go to different cities and who are employed in large numbers in other places? These are issues that have cropped up periodically and the governments have tackled it. When the Maharashtra politics was seeing a bit of an anger against the migrants because of certain political parties, UP government used to be very, very forthright and upfront in talking to those state ministers to prevent those attacks.
Yes. And you know, the other concerning part from what I heard, and I know, and I will grant this, that it's a huge challenge if for a state to start preparing for 25 lakh migrants to come back, as is the number that was just shared with us by the health minister, is a huge task. 25 lakh people coming back to the state. Now, if he says they've managed to additionally have 52,000 additional isolation beds, that's not going to be enough. Even the quarantine centers will not going to be enough. And if the administration's preparation is to have 4 people to tackle 50,000 applicants, then that's also going to be a problem in the villages and in the smaller towns where similar amount of large number of people are now entering back to their native towns and villages. The other problem that Uttar Pradesh viewers is facing right now, and we've got visuals coming from various parts, is the migrants who want to go to other states, want to cross Uttar Pradesh and go to Bihar side, and they're all also walking by, and those people also at some point would need help. Let me see if I can go back to Mr. Jay Pratap Singh. Mr. Singh, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now. It got disconnected.
Okay. Mr. Singh, the point that I was making is, okay, granted that, you know, what happens at the MP border or Rajasthan border is not under your control, but what is under your control is coordination with states like at least Gujarat, Madhya Pradesh or Haryana, which are BJP governed, or at least the people who are in Ghaziabad wanting to register. Today, our ground report showed that there were only a handful of officials at that place for all the applicants who had lined up, which is why there was so much of chaos. Now, how will the administration tackle that?
I think there are two issues in this. One is for people coming from different states, which, as I told you earlier, was supposedly we had an agreement with all the chief ministers to look after these people and send us details through an online system, register them online, and then let us know so that we can arrange the trains. Now 508 trains have come. If you leave out Delhi and Mumbai, we've got trains from Surat, we've got trains from Baroda, we've got trains from Punjab, we've got trains from different parts of the country, and they are coming in with all these migrants. Everything is organized. There's nothing unorganized in that. We are accepting them and we are getting them in the buses. We are taking them to the districts and we are separating them and taking them right down to the tehsil level where they're being screened and sent. That is one issue. The other issue which you mentioned was we have a lot of migrants in Gautam Budh Nagar who want to go to different parts of UP. Trains have been organized in Gautam Budh Nagar. Trains have been organized in Ghaziabad. Trains have been organized in Mathura. Trains have been organized in Saharanpur. Memo trains have been organized. This is the local crowd which is going from one district to another district of UP. That also we've already managed. That is also going ahead of them. Everything is organized in UP. It's not what other people are saying or what you're seeing on the road and all that. When the other states are not letting them come in a proper organized way, so obviously you'll see a whole lot of people standing in Ghaziabad, or maybe you'll see them on any border of UP. You come to Jhansi and you see a whole lot of people coming in trucks, absolutely stuffed inside trucks, and they are standing in Jhansi. We are taking them out, taking them to the quarantine center, giving them food, and then segregating them and sending them by buses to the nearest districts, wherever they are supposed to come from. So we have done this in an organized way. Why it looks organized on TV is because the other states are not cooperating with us the way we have done with everybody else. That is all I want to say. And the other issue which you also said about the number of people who are coming in and there's not enough isolation beds.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, the other point I wanted to make was that we have the number of positive cases according to our 23 crores of people, our population is very little just now. We have about 4,500 and something odd positive cases. Our recovery rate is almost 60% or 62% just now. Our death rate is 2.92%, which is lower than the national average. And we have a system where the people who come into shelter homes, once they are screened and they are sent back to the villages, then the screening starts taking place at the village level. So by the time the next batch which comes into the shelter home, that shelter home is empty. Isolation beds are only meant for positive cases. L1 facilities for positive cases, L2 facilities also for positive cases, and L3 is in our medical colleges. Other people who are asymptomatic, they are sent back home and we monitor them there. If they need be, then we start sampling them. If they have some sort of symptoms which look like a coronavirus, then we start sampling them, but we don't need to sample them at all. And these are under the medical ICMR and the Government of India's health guidelines.
Okay, I understand what you're saying, and I must say that it is going to be a huge challenge, especially for the Uttar Pradesh government, if there are 25 lakh migrants which are coming. I'm sure you know this, Mr. Singh, but I would want to also highlight this point one more time, that we're still not running enough trains or buses, and every day that passes by, there are lakhs of people who are just stranded on the roads with no food, walking, with no direction. If they manage to reach somewhere, they still don't know where they will go next. And I'm sure you're aware, but it is a huge, huge problem, which I feel can only get resolved if the states coordinate with each other more. And that coordination, at least with your own BJP governed states, should function to the best. But I appreciate the fact that you've taken the time out and you've spoken to us here on Mirror Now. Thank you, Mr. Jai Pratap Singh. Okay, I want to, in fact, since we were speaking about Ghaziabad, play out that walkthrough that we got. Now, Siddhant, our reporter, was there in Ghaziabad through the day, and he kept getting us voices. And there were some people who had been there for 3 days, for 4 days. There is no facility for them to stay there, viewers. It's just like a bus stand and a huge ground which is there, and they're just lying there, under one shade area. They are being given food, but there is absolutely no accommodation, and it could take days together for them to get on a bus. In fact, at one point when Siddhant was there were barely a handful of buses which were there available. Take a look at this report he sent for us.
Reporting from Ramleela Maidan in Ghaziabad, where you can see that thousands of migrants have gathered here. Because after the incident, what happened in Auraiya, UP government have asked district administration to seal the borders, not to allow migrants to cross borders, not to allow them to roam on the national highways. This is the reason that district administration has brought all the migrants in the district to this Ramleela Maidan, where you can see thousands of them have gathered here. They have been waiting from last 2 days, and the buses are also being arranged by the district administration to send them back to their native places. This particular registration center is for the state of Uttarakhand and Bihar, and the registration is currently going on. This morning situation got chaotic because too many people were here. They all went for registration. No social distancing norms are being followed here. Complete violation of social distancing norms, but people are here waiting from 2-3 days to go back to their homes. We'll speak to some. कहाँ से आए हम?
राजस्थान से.
हाँ? राजस्थान से चल के आए.
हाँ.
तो इसके आगे जाने नहीं देना आपको?
नहीं.
और कहाँ जाना है आपको?
बिहार.
बिहार जाना है. तो क्या नंबर लगा आपका?
हाँ, नंबर लगा.
नंबर कब बताना है? कब की बस है?
अभी आ रही है, बोला है कि अभी बस आ जाएगा आधा घंटा में.
आधा घंटे में आ जाएगा बस. ओके, आप लोग कहाँ से हैं?
बिहार जाना है.
बिहार जाना है. कहाँ से आ रहे हैं?
वहाँ से लुधियाना.
लुधियाना से आ रहे हैं. चल के आ रहे हैं?
चल के आ रहे हैं.
अच्छा, इसके आगे जाने नहीं दे रहे हैं?
नहीं.
तो क्या बोलना है कि ट्रेन अरेंज करेंगे?
हाँ.
तो कब आएगा आपका नंबर?
बस आधा घंटा बोला है.
आधा घंटा बोला हुआ है. So you can see there is complete mismanagement on the part of the district administration because social distancing norms are being violated. The people, you can see on that side on my left, I would ask video journalist Arjun Rawat to pan and show you. You can see the crowd at the registration desk. People are coming in large number. They're not following social distancing norms, and even the administration is also not making them to follow. Thousands of them have gathered here. Administration has also arranged for their food, and we have been told that 2 community centers have also been taken over by administration for the migrants, but the queue suggests there are so many people that even the community center, 2 community centers are not enough, and this is the reason that people are here under scorching sun, under this heat. They are sitting waiting for their buses, they waiting for their registration numbers. Now we have also met people, those who are saying that their registration is not being accepted because they want to go to states like Chhattisgarh, some various other states where the buses and trains are not going. So the provision is from here buses will take the migrants to the nearby railway station, and from there they will be sent to their homes. But for various states the trains are not running, so those migrants, those people have to stay at this Ramleela ground till the time the buses and trains are not arranged for them.
Vinay, as much as we do highlight and should highlight, the failures of the government, the general apathy and complete failure in realizing that there is a segment of people, who are currently struggling and in pain, so much has to also be said about the society itself. It's everybody who abandoned these migrants.
Absolutely, without doubt. I think we focused a lot on how the governments have failed the migrants of India, but there are 2 other categories of people, and I feel embarrassed to even say something like this because they should have shown a little more heart in dealing with this. And those two categories of people are some of the employers and the landlords in the big cities, because a lot of our reporters who've gone out into the field in the last 1 week or so have told us stories about how most of the people have not been paid, even though there is a central government order now making it legally mandatory to continue to pay wages. A lot of them are not paying them wages, and a lot of landlords are actually pushing these people out because they have not been able to pay their rent. And these two factors have contributed equally in the desperation of these migrants. Why would a migrant suddenly want to walk hundreds of kilometers back home? It's a question that we should ask ourselves. I mean, just now Siddhant was speaking to some workers there, and one of them said that he has walked from Ludhiana to Ghaziabad. Just think about it. 35 to 41 degrees of temperature, high humidity levels ahead of the monsoon that is about to arrive, and you have people walking hundreds of kilometers back. Why would they do that? Principally because the landlord has told them you got to pay the rent or move out, or the employer has said I can't pay you salaries. Now they may have a legitimate reason to say that we can't pay salaries because the factories are shut and we can't earn any money. But at this was the time when we should have shown a little bit of gratitude, because ultimately those factories can be revived and will get revived at full capacity only when the migrants actually come back. Maharashtra Chief Minister, who's right now speaking to the state, Tanvi, has just made an appeal to what he calls the sons of the soil to help the work going, because he recognizes that people who actually live in, who don't belong to this place and are migrants have actually gone back. And all these factories and industries will now face a labor shortage problem. But this investment in labor should have been done at a time of crisis for about a couple of months or so that they don't have to walk back hundreds of kilometers in this intense heat with great difficulty. So it's a failure of the corporates and the employers, as well as the tenants, the landlords who've actually pushed the tenants out as well, Tanvi.
Yes, in fact, because you mentioned Maharashtra, Vinay, I want to play out this report Santya got from us, for us from Thane, where again in Thane, actually hundreds of migrants have gathered. Some of them walk, all the way from Mumbai to Thane every day in the hope of getting a bus. Then they don't, then they come back. And all they have to survive on are some biscuits and a little bit of water. And all they know is that there is hope. They will get a state bus that will take them to the border. And from there on, they still have to figure their way all the way to Bihar. Take a look at this report.
आप मुझे एक बात बताएं, आपने फॉर्म कितना टाइम पहले भरा था?
25 दिन तो हुआ है, 20-25 दिन हुआ है। मैं आके कम लाइन था, जबील दे के गई थी, तो फिर मैंने एक बार 10 बजे आके यहाँ खड़ी थी तो हकाल रहे मेरे को, आपका मोबाइल में मैसेज आएगा नहीं तो ऑनलाइन करके जॉब करके, ऐसा बोल रहा। हमको मालूम ही नहीं क्या करने का क्या नहीं, हर अकेले औरत क्या कर सकती बोलो।
कहाँ जाना है आपको?
शाहबाद गुलबर्गा। 6 तारीख के बारे
और कोई जवाब नहीं मिला है अभी, आपको कब भेजेंगे कब नहीं भेजेंगे?
मैं इधर जो है 5-6 दिन से आता हूँ, 6 दिन से।
6 दिन से आ रहे हैं आप?
हाँ, अब पुलिस वाला बोलता है 10 बजे आओ, 11 बजे आओ, 12 बजे आओ। इधर मैं दिन भर जो है बैठ करके मैं जाता हूँ।
6 दिन से आप रोज आ रहे हैं, रोज लाइन में लग रहे हैं, कितने घंटे बैठ रहे हैं?
इधर कम से कम 5-6 घंटा बैठ करके जाता हूँ, फिर नहाता खाता हूँ, फिर सोता हूँ। नींद किधर आता है, फिर उसके बाद आता हूँ। पुलिस वाला जो है डंडा लेके भगाता है, बोलता है जाओ जाओ सब लोग। इधर ऑनलाइन हो रहा है, 5-6 दिन पहले से बोल रहा है। फिर इधर बोलता है 11 बजे आना, 10 बजे आना, 12 बजे आना। ऐसा करके जो ये लोग हैरान करते हैं, पब्लिक का सुनते नहीं है। पब्लिक यहाँ खाने पर मर रही है, लोग कुछ परवाह नहीं है लोगों को।
आज लोग हम सर मजबूर हो गए कि हम 3-4 दिन में पैदल निकलेंगे या ट्रक से निकलेंगे मैडम, अपनी वाइफ को लेके। लेकिन कोई व्यवस्था ही नहीं हो रही है। कहीं भी पता चलता है सर, वहीं पे सांताक्रूज में या विले पार्ले में सर पैसे लेके, मतलब बिना फॉर्म, लाइन लगाओ और फॉर्म दिखाओ, आधार कार्ड दिखाओ और पैसे लेके उनको भेज रहे हैं। हम 14 दिन हो गए, कोई जवाब मिल जाता, कोई वेबसाइट बन गई होती है, अगर हम देख लेते हमको संतोष मिलता, हमको पता नहीं चलता। हमें पुलिस से दिक्कत नहीं है सर, प्रशासन से दिक्कत है, हमको शासन प्रशासन से दिक्कत है मैडम। आज चुनाव होते हैं, सब कुछ भेज देते हैं ट्रेनों में भरकर, बसों में भरकर। यहाँ पे खाने के लिए पैसे नहीं है, मोबाइल भेज दूँ, सब खुद को भेज दूँ, कब तक रुकूँ यहाँ पे? पुलिस लोग अपना काम कर रही है, लेकिन प्रशासन क्या इतनी व्यवस्था नहीं कर सकता कि एक वेबसाइट बना देता तो हम लोग को शांति मिल जाती, हम लोग पता तो चलता हम कितने दिन वेट करना है।
8 तारीख से मैंने 5-6 बार चक्कर मार चुका। ये आज आओ कल आओ, हो जाएगा तुम्हारा। हमें अगर जौनपुर की गाड़ी में नहीं भरा हूँ, जौनपुर का, अगर बनारस की गाड़ी में होएगा तो भी, यूपी का कोई भी गाड़ी में होएगा भेज देंगे। क्योंकि यहाँ पे मेरे को खाने पीने का कुछ नहीं, रोड से खिचड़ी जाती है, 8 बजे 9 बजे रात को लाइन लगा के उधर से लेता हूँ, कितना दिन ऐसे रहूँगा भूखे।
From Ghaziabad to Thane and in every other part of our country, the stories are the same. They're equally heartbreaking. They're equally reflective of the pain and the struggle that thousands of these people are actually facing. Small, young children, women, pregnant ladies, elderly who are having to walk in this scorching heat for kilometers together. Sometimes they get a bus, sometimes they don't. When they reach a border, then the other state refuses to take them, and then they don't know when they're going to reach home. This is their plight. This is our failure. This is the humanitarian crisis, the biggest kinds that India is witnessing right now. Thank you so much for joining us on this 8 p.m. conversation.